Some days start like any other. You grab your coffee, head to the office, ready to tackle the usual challenges. But then there are days that blindside you, days that redefine your entire career in a single sterile conference room. My name is Michael Donovan, or Mike to most. For 15 years, I was the Senior Vice President of Sales at Oak Ridge Custom Interiors, a name synonymous with quality commercial millwork in Denver. That morning, Isabella Rossi, our new COO post-acquisition by Veridian Holdings, summoned me. Her agenda was brutally simple. My outdated package was being cut by 40%. Welcome to the new OCI. This is my story, and if you've ever felt undervalued or seen years of dedication dismissed, hit that subscribe button for Life Stories 1 because you're not alone. 15 years. It's a significant slice of anyone's life. For me, those years were poured into Oak Ridge Custom Interiors, brick by painstaking brick. I joined when we were a small regional player, pulling in about $8 million annually. My father, a cabinet maker, taught me the soul of wood, the integrity of a well-made joint, long before I understood profit margins. That foundation, that respect for the craft, resonated when I found OCI. Arthur Jenkins, the original owner, wasn't just selling wood. He was selling trust, and he saw that I understood that. He gave me the reins to build the sales department my way. I hired young, ambitious reps, not just teaching them sales tactics, but the core principle Arthur instilled in me. Relationships matter more than transactions. By last year, my team was pushing $73 million in sales, and my personal accounts, the top 10 relationships I'd cultivated over countless dinners, late-night calls, and solved problems, represented over $12 million of that. Then Veridian Holdings acquired us. Acquisitions are a part of the business landscape. I'd navigated them before. But this felt different. The first tremors were the new executives flown in, a CEO from outside our industry, a marketing director obsessed with reimagining our digital presence, and then Isabella Rossi, our new COO, armed with a prestigious MBA and presentations brimming with operational efficiency and resource optimization. Small changes trickled down initially. Travel budgets tightened. Client entertainment expenses needed layers of approval. My weekly executive meetings became monthly, then as needed. Isabella assured me it was just streamlining, nothing personal. But it became deeply personal when she started scheduling calls with my key accounts without me, when she questioned discounts I'd negotiated years ago that had cemented client loyalty through thick and thin, when she insinuated my team needed fresh perspectives and brought in 2 of her former colleagues as new regional managers. David Miller, our CFO, a man I'd worked alongside since my early days, tried to give me a heads up during a quarterly budget review. He spoke in hushed tones. "They're looking hard at the sales compensation structure, Mike, particularly the legacy arrangements." I was the only legacy arrangement left. A week before that fateful meeting, I saw Isabella having an intense lunch with Sophia Chen, the newest, most ambitious member of my team. When they spotted me, Sophia quickly looked away, while Isabella waved with a practiced, casual air. Later, Sophia mumbled something about just getting to know the team. I knew then. Not the specifics, but the direction. The ground beneath my 15 years at OCI was already crumbling. That evening, after Isabella's clinical delivery of my professional death sentence, the silence in my home office was deafening. Sales reports from the last decade lay spread across my desk. 15 years of consistent growth, 15 years of building Oak Ridge Custom Interiors into an industry leader, 15 years of loyalty, repaid with a dismissive, "Your package is outdated." The words echoed, a bitter counterpoint to the numbers that screamed success. My phone buzzed, shattering the quiet. It was a text from Bill Anderson, the purchasing director at Summit Construction, our largest account. "Heard rumors about big changes at OCI. Everything okay? Call me." Bill and I weren't just business associates, we were friends. We'd navigated 2 company restructures on his end, his divorce, his son's college applications. This was more than a client checking in. I poured a bourbon and dialed. "Mike," Bill answered immediately, his voice tight with concern. "What in the world is going on over there? I got a call from some woman, Rossi, saying she's taking over our account." "That would be Isabella Rossi, our new COO, effectively running sales too now," I replied, keeping my voice as neutral as I could muster. "Well, she started talking about reviewing our pricing structure and implementing some new vendor management system." Bill's frustration was palpable. "We have a contract, Mike, and we have processes that work. I don't need someone who doesn't know us from Adam telling me how to manage my suppliers." I took a slow sip of bourbon, letting the silence hang for a moment. Then, Bill lowered his voice. "Mike, are you staying? Because if you're not, we seriously need to talk." In that instant, everything crystallized. My real value was forged over those 15 years, in the cultivated trust, in being the reliable problem solver, in the very relationships Isabella's spreadsheet-driven wisdom dismissed. "I'm considering my options, Bill," I said carefully. "Well, consider this," he replied firmly. "If you land somewhere else, give me a call first, before I have to deal with Harvard Barbie again." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Robert Greene at Apex Building Solutions. We'd met at an industry conference the previous year. He'd mentioned they were looking to expand their commercial millwork division. I saved it to drafts, not quite ready to hit send. The next morning, the calls started. 3 more of my top clients, each with similar stories of unsettling initial contacts from Isabella, each expressing concern, each asking what my plans were. The ripple effect was already in motion. I drove to the OCI office one last time to clear out my desk. As I was packing the last of my personal items, David Miller, the CFO, discreetly slipped me a folded piece of paper. "Your client retention numbers," he said quietly, "and their average annual spend. Thought you might need it." I nodded, understanding the unspoken message. He knew what I was worth, even if the new regime didn't. That afternoon, I finalized my resignation letter. With a sense of resolve I hadn't felt in weeks, I hit send on the email to Robert Greene at Apex Building Solutions and called my lawyer to meticulously review my non-compete agreement. Just as I suspected, it applied to specific, directly competitive millwork products for 6 months, but crucially, not to clients or other broader construction supplies. I couldn't sell identical widgets, but nothing prevented me from maintaining the relationships I'd spent a career building. The anger had faded, replaced by a sharp focus. There's a unique power in being underestimated, in being dismissed as old-fashioned. It means they never see you coming until it's far too late. I spent 2 weeks diligently exploring my options before formally accepting Robert's offer at Apex. The role was perfect. Senior Vice President of Business Development, with full autonomy to build my own division. "We want your expertise, Mike," Robert had said. "You know what works in this industry. We don't need to reinvent the wheel." The day after, I called Isabella to discuss my resignation and propose a 2-week transition plan to ensure a smooth handover of my accounts. "That won't be necessary," she said, her voice cool and clipped. "We've already been in touch with your clients. Sophia Chen will be handling the transition." I tried to explain, "These relationships are complex, Isabella. There are nuances to each account that take time to understand." She cut me off. "We have all your notes in the CRM, and frankly, your approach was rather old-fashioned. We're implementing a more data-driven client management strategy." There was no point arguing. Her mind had been made up about me from the moment she'd walked through OCI's doors. "I'll have HR process your exit paperwork," she concluded. "Please return all company property by the end of the week." 3 days later, I met Bill Anderson from Summit Construction for lunch. He hadn't returned Sophia's calls, and Isabella had escalated the matter to his boss. "Your replacement," Bill said, shaking his head in disbelief, "sent me a client satisfaction survey with 48 questions. Then she followed up with a lengthy presentation about their new customer success metrics. I don't need metrics, Mike. I need someone who understands our business, someone who can get things done." I nodded, keeping my comments neutral. I wasn't going to badmouth OCI. "So, where are you heading next?" Bill asked directly. "I'm joining Apex Building Solutions as SVP of Business Development," I told him. Bill raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. They've been trying to get our business for years." I sipped my water. "I start in 2 weeks." "Well," Bill said, sliding his business card across the table, "call me when you're settled." The next day, a certified letter from OCI's legal department arrived. It was a stark reminder of my non-compete obligations and a stern warning against any improper solicitation of OCI clients, listing every major account I'd managed by name. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was James Peterson, CEO of High Peak Builders, another top 10 client. "Mike, what the hell is going on? This new woman, Rossi, is trying to change our payment terms. Says our account structure requires optimization. We've been on net 45 for a decade." "I'm no longer with OCI, James," I replied carefully. "Yeah, I figured that out when she called. Where'd you land?" I gave him the basics about Apex. Before I could finish, he interrupted. "They handle similar product lines, right?" "Similar, yes." "Good. Call me Monday. I want to talk options." By the end of that week, I'd received similar calls from 5 more clients. Each conversation followed the same pattern: complaints about Isabella's impersonal, disruptive approach, questions about my new position, and requests to connect once I was settled at Apex. I hadn't solicited a single one. They were coming to me. On my last official day with OCI, Isabella called, unexpectedly. "I understand you've been in contact with Oak Ridge clients," she said, her voice tight with accusation. "I've spoken with some people, yes," I replied calmly. "Many of them are personal friends after 15 years. "We consider those proprietary business relationships," she snapped. "Any attempt to redirect that business would constitute a breach of your separation agreement." "I understand my obligations, Isabella," I said evenly. "Good," she retorted, "because the last thing you want is a legal battle with Viridian Holdings' attorneys." After hanging up, I forwarded the call recording to my lawyer. The same lawyer who'd confirmed my non-compete only restricted me from selling specific millwork for 6 months. Nothing prevented me from selling other construction supplies to those same clients through Apex. Nothing prevented those clients from choosing to follow me. Isabella had just revealed her first flicker of real fear. She was beginning to understand the magnitude of her miscalculation. My first day at Apex Building Solutions began with a candid admission from Robert Green, the CEO. We were in his office, overlooking downtown Denver. "Mike," he said, leaning forward, "we've been trying to break into Oak Ridge's core market for years. Your predecessor spent 18 months courting Summit Construction without ever getting past their purchasing department. Bill Anderson doesn't trust easily." I nodded. "I know Bill. He values consistency and reliability above all else." Robert continued, "Here's what I don't understand. OCI's client retention rate, at least until recently, was nearly 95%. The industry average hovers around 72. What was their secret?" I almost laughed. Their secret was sitting right in front of him, freshly hired. "It's not a secret, Robert. It's relationships," I explained. "When Arthur Jenkins ran the company, he understood that contracts might keep clients on paper, but genuine relationships keep them loyal, especially when competitors undercut your prices." Robert nodded slowly. "And the new management doesn't get that?" "The new management," I said, "views deep-seated relationships as inefficient. Isabella Rossi wants automated systems, data points, not late-night phone calls to solve a crisis." Before I could elaborate further, my new assistant interrupted with an urgent message. David Miller, OCI's CFO, wanted to meet. We arranged to meet at a quiet bar downtown after work. David looked even more stressed than the last time I'd seen him, constantly glancing over his shoulder as I approached. "I shouldn't be here," he said immediately, his voice low. "But you are," I replied, signaling the bartender for 2 drinks. David pushed a thin folder across the table. "The board meeting was yesterday. Thought you should see this." Inside was a copy of Isabella Rossi's quarterly strategy presentation. The first few pages were standard fare, market projections, new marketing initiatives. Then I saw it. Client Transition Strategy, Donovan Accounts. The plan detailed how they intended to migrate my former clients to Sophia Chen and 2 newly hired account managers. It included meticulously crafted talking points for addressing potential objections about my departure and a relationship reclamation timeline. But what truly caught my eye, what made my breath catch, was the financial projection. It showed my former clients representing not the $12 million in annual revenue I had always estimated and reported, but a staggering $17.3 million. Nearly 24% of Oak Ridge's total revenue. "They never told you what your book of business was really worth," David said quietly, taking a long drink. Arthur Jenkins knew, of course, but after the acquisition. He shrugged, a gesture of helplessness. "Why are you showing me this, David?" I asked. "Because what they're doing isn't right," he said, his gaze steady. "And because Isabella's already missing her forecasts. She told the board it's just temporary disruption during the transition, but the numbers don't lie." He tapped the folder. "She's already lost High Peak Builders, hasn't she?" I didn't confirm or deny. Client decisions were their own now, not my direct concern. "It's going to get worse," David continued, his voice dropping even lower. "She's implementing aggressive price increases across all legacy accounts next month. The board approved it, based on her analysis that OCI has been underpricing the market for years." Now I understood. Isabella hadn't just wanted me gone to save on my compensation package. She'd seen my strong client relationships as a barrier to her aggressive, short-sighted revenue extraction strategy. With me out of the picture, she could raise prices, change terms, and implement impersonal systems designed to squeeze more short-term profit from relationships I'd spent years nurturing. "There's something else," David added, his eyes betraying deep unease. "They've been auditing your expense reports, going back 3 years. Looking for any irregularities, anything they can use." "They won't find any," I stated confidently. "I know that, Mike. We all know that. But they're building a narrative. If clients start leaving in droves, they need someone to blame." As David got up to leave, he hesitated. "I'm updating my resume," he said, a grim look on his face. "Just thought you should know." Driving home that night, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I wasn't just learning what Isabella Rossi thought of me. I was learning what Oak Ridge Custom Interiors, under its new ownership, had really thought of me all along. My value had been crystal clear in their internal numbers, but conveniently absent from my compensation and their recent dealings. They'd been happy to benefit from the fruits of my relationships, while quietly planning to exploit them further once I was out of the way. The truth wasn't just that Isabella had underestimated me. It was that Oak Ridge had systematically undervalued me for years. 2 months into my new role at Apex Building Solutions, a rhythm had been established. My office overlooked the evolving Denver skyline, and my small but growing team, including 2 sharp sales representatives I'd handpicked, was energized. I hadn't directly solicited a single one of my former OCI clients. I didn't need to. They came to me. First, it was James Peterson from High Peak Builders. He called the day after OCI implemented their sweeping price increases. "A 14% hike with no warning, Mike," he fumed. "Can Apex match our original pricing?" We could, and we did, while also adding value-added services OCI had never bothered to offer. Then came Westerly Developers, followed by a string of regional builders, and then Austin Modern Construction. Each story was depressingly similar. Unexpected and unjustifiable price increases, rigid new policies, and a frustratingly impersonal service from OCI. By the end of my second month at Apex, 4 of my former top 10 accounts had moved their entire business to us. I made sure each transition was flawless. My team worked weekends to ensure perfect first orders, and I personally visited job sites to check deliveries. Word began to spread through the industry. Following Mike Donovan to Apex meant better service at better, or at least fairer, prices. Then my phone rang. It was Isabella Rossi. "We need to talk," she said, her usual steely confidence replaced with a thinly veiled panic. I agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop near Apex's office. Isabella arrived 15 minutes early, already nursing a latte when I walked in. "This has to stop, Michael," she said without preamble, foregoing any pleasantries. "What exactly has to stop, Isabella?" I asked, calmly stirring my coffee. She snapped, then caught herself. "4 major accounts have left us in 8 weeks. All of them mentioned you by name when they terminated their contracts." "Clients make their own decisions, Isabella," I replied. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We can make this easy, or we can make this hard, Mike. Easy means you back off, you stop whatever you're doing, and we don't pursue legal action for breach of contract and tortious interference." "There's no breach," I stated plainly. "My non-compete, which your legal team drafted, prevents me from selling directly competitive millwork for 6 months. Apex's construction supply division, where these clients are placing their orders, doesn't directly compete with OCI's specialized millwork." Her eyes narrowed. "You're exploiting a loophole." "I'm respecting the exact terms of an agreement your company wrote," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "Perhaps your legal team should have been more careful." The fight seemed to drain out of her. "The board is asking questions," she admitted, her voice now laced with desperation, "about client retention, about revenue projections." "That sounds like an internal OCI matter," I replied, offering no solace. She tried a different, almost pleading approach. "What do you want, Mike? A consulting arrangement? A finder's fee for leaving certain accounts alone?" I almost laughed. She still didn't understand. It was never just about the money. "I'm not interested in arrangements, Isabella," I said, standing up. "I'm interested in doing my job well and treating clients with respect. The rest tends to take care of itself." The next day, Bill Anderson from Summit Construction called. Their 3-year contract with OCI was up for renewal. "We're putting it out to bid, Mike," he said. "Isabella's been calling me daily, offered to beat any competitor's price by 5%. "That's a generous offer," I acknowledged. "Is it?" Bill countered. "Because I'm looking at more than just price here, Mike. I need a partner who understands our business, someone who answers the phone at 7 p.m. when a project is in trouble, not a vendor who sends me a 48-question survey." 2 weeks later, Summit Construction awarded Apex Building Solutions a 2-year supply contract worth $4.2 million annually. It was a major coup, the kind that makes headlines in industry publications. The same day, I received a short email from David Miller. It contained only a forwarded internal message from OCI announcing that Isabella Rossi was being reassigned to strategic development initiatives while they conducted a search for a new sales director. I didn't reply to David, nor did I reach out to anyone at OCI. I simply forwarded Summit's signed contract to Robert Green with a brief note. First of many, planning to reach $20 million in new business by year-end. The wheels were in motion, and the consequences of Isabella's strategy were becoming undeniably, devastatingly clear for her. 6 months after joining Apex, I stood in the company's main conference room, surrounded by my expanded team. On the large wall-mounted screen was our quarterly performance report. $13.7 million in new business, with solid projections to hit $22 million by year-end. 8 of my former top 10 OCI accounts had now followed me to Apex. Robert Greene walked in, beaming, holding a bottle of champagne. "The board just approved your division expansion plan, Mike," he announced. "Additional staff, increased marketing budget, everything you asked for." As glasses were being passed around, my phone buzzed. A text from David Miller. "OCI Q3 earnings call in 30 minutes. Might want to listen in." I stepped away from the quiet celebration to dial into the call. OCI's new CEO, Raymond Peters, sounded tense as he addressed investors. "While we anticipated some disruption following our strategic restructuring, sales have unfortunately underperformed against projections. We've experienced unexpected client attrition in our commercial division." An analyst interrupted sharply. "Can you quantify that attrition, Mr. Peters? We're seeing estimates that Oak Ridge has lost nearly 20% of its annual revenue in the past 2 quarters. "Those numbers are speculative at this time," Raymond deflected, his voice strained. "We are implementing an aggressive client retention strategy." "Is it accurate," another analyst pressed, "that your largest account, Summit Construction, recently signed a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract with Apex Building Solutions?" The pause was deafening. "We are in ongoing discussions with all our key accounts," Raymond finally responded, a clear evasion. As the call stumbled on, I received an email. It was from Sophia Chen, the ambitious young saleswoman Isabella had championed at OCI. The subject line read, "Any openings at Apex?" I rejoined the celebration at Apex, declining the champagne Robert offered. He noticed my expression. "Everything okay, Mike?" "Just got some confirmation," I replied with a small smile. That afternoon, an industry newsletter broke the story. Oak Ridge Custom Interiors struggles after exodus of key accounts and senior leadership. The article specifically mentioned my move to Apex and the subsequent significant client migration. It even quoted an anonymous OCI employee stating that the company had fundamentally misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership and long-term client relationships. I never had to say a word against them. The numbers and the market spoke for themselves. A year to the day after Isabella Rossi had coolly informed me that my package was outdated, I sat in my significantly larger office at Apex, reviewing our annual numbers. My division had generated $26.3 million in revenue, exceeding even my own ambitious projections. My team had grown from 2 sales representatives to 11, supported by a dedicated client support staff. We'd moved to a larger floor in the building, and Robert Greene had hinted at a board position opening up in the near future. I kept a photograph on my desk from our division's recent holiday dinner, faces relaxed, genuine smiles, a team that understood what I'd always known. Business, at its core, is built on trust and mutual respect. My assistant buzzed. "There's an Isabella Rossi here to see you, Mr. Donovan. She doesn't have an appointment." I paused for a moment, then nodded. "Send her in." Isabella looked different, less polished, more tired. Her designer suit had been replaced by something less conspicuous, off the rack. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, remaining standing even after I gestured to a chair. "What can I do for you, Isabella?" "I'm with the Hamilton Group now," she explained, her voice lacking its former assertiveness. "Business consulting. I was hoping to get your perspective on Apex's approach to client retention for a case study I'm developing." The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. I almost laughed. "I think you already know my approach, Isabella." She nodded stiffly. I made a miscalculation at Oak Ridge." "You did," I agreed, offering no absolution. "The market is talking about how you effectively took down a significant portion of a company without saying a negative word," she continued, a hint of awe, or perhaps envy, in her tone. "That's a powerful reputation." I didn't respond. Isabella hadn't come for a case study. She'd come searching for something else, perhaps absolution, perhaps reconciliation, perhaps even a way back. I wasn't offering any of it. After a moment of awkward silence, she placed her new business card on my desk. If you ever want to discuss industry trends or... I appreciate the offer, Isabella, I said, standing up, signaling the end of our brief meeting. But I'm fully booked these days. After she left, I glanced at the card, then dropped it into the shredder. That evening, I drove to my daughter's new house for dinner. She'd just been promoted to senior architect at her firm. "How's work, Dad?" she asked as we sat on her patio, enjoying the cool Denver evening. "Good," I replied simply, a genuine smile on my face. "Building something that'll last." And I was. Not with wood and joinery this time, but with the same enduring principles that had guided my entire career. Do the work, keep your promises, and always, always prioritize the human connection in business. In the end, Isabella Rossi had given me an unexpected, invaluable gift. She'd forced me to prove, to myself and to everyone watching, exactly what 15 years of trust was really worth. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It's a reminder that true value isn't always recognized until it's gone, and that integrity and relationships are assets no spreadsheet can truly quantify. If Mike's story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories 1 for more tales of challenges, resilience, and eventual triumphs. We all have a story,